Hello everyone! Ardenweald has become available for testing, the zone that follows Meldraxxus. This is the domain for souls linked to the spirits of the wilds, and there's a cycle of rebirth going on.
And if we think of the Emerald Dream as a reflection of the spring and the summer, part of nature's cycle, Ardenweald reflects autumn and winter. It's a place of rest, yes, of death, but also of preparation for eventual rebirth.
As in, if a wild god dies on Azeroth, prime example would be Cenarius slain by Grom in Warcraft 3. In the past, we knew that Cenarius would go to the Emerald Dream and then eventually return to Azeroth. Now we know that there's an additional part to that cycle. They first go to Ardenweald, here they spend their time being reborn. They then return to the Emerald Dream, to then, with the right incantations, the right rituals, the right purpose, to be brought back to Azeroth. This zone is ruled over by the Winter Queen with the Night Fae Covenant. As all the other zones in the Shadowlands, they're dealing with an anima shortage. The effects here is that they now no longer have the power to keep it all going. They have to make choices as to which areas of Ardenweald, which spirits get to survive and continue this cycle of rebirth, or which areas and which spirits wither away forever. Besides that problem with the anima shortage, we also see that the Gorm are out of balance. These bug-like creatures are feasting on Ardenweald. They're now reproducing more, which is not the way it's supposed to go. From the Dungeon Journal, we read that the Gorm have been chewing at the edges of Ardenweald, devouring desiccated husks of the dead. However, there's the beast called Tredova that has gorged itself on something far more precious, the wild seed of Lakali, Loa of Knowledge. Meaning that besides wild gods like Cenarius, also the trolls Loa, they end up here. The whole dungeon the other side revolves around Bonsamdi and Muzala, all that good stuff. And now that the beast have feasted on the Loa of Wisdom, it starts to hunger for more than just survival. And we have to go into the dungeon and take care of business. Next to the Gorm, we also see the return of the Drust, characters introduced in Battle for Azeroth. You might recall how the Drust are Vrijku of old, and their domain is called Tros. After the war with the Kalterans, they ended up in this domain, and in an interview, they've said that Tros is known as a nightmare realm, a land of death and decay. This would be known to us as the Emerald Nightmare, whereas the Drust, they called it Frost. The shortage of anima leads to the Drust trying to invade from their realm of Frost, and they're causing quite a bit of trouble. There are masks placed on the native creatures, which turns them to their side, cursed to exist outside the cycle of life and death. The Drust now seek to circumvent their fate using Ardenweald's mechanism of rebirth. Their would-be conquest has found its way to Tirnasaith, where Ingra Malach and his followers use soul magic to subjugate the local inhabitants. So those from the questing that I've seen are the three major threats. There is the anima shortage, the Gorm, and the Drust. A nice cool detail is that when mortal souls go to Ardenweald, they actually get a choice as to what spirit form they want to take. There are examples of cats and squirrels and frogs and whatever creature or wild you want to become, you get the choice. This is very nicely portrayed in Alioth, a bear spirit that we find at Hibernal Hollow. I protect the tree and all who live within these walls, but before that, I lived on a beautiful world full of lush forests and sparkling seas. I was a god, a powerful spirit of the wilderness. My fur was full of stars and my teeth could crack mountains. Meaning that, like in the other realms of the Shadowlands, not just Azeroth's known spirits they go to Ardenweald. There are more planets, more dimensions out there that also end up here. And in the case of Alioth, the Legion showed up and took his world. And now he's here in bear form. So that in a nutshell is the idea behind Ardenweald and the main storyline, although of course spoilers ahead, you might want to discover this for yourself. But the main storyline, it surrounds this strange spirit that bonds with us, which lives in a seed. It recognizes us, but also has disturbing nightmares. It turns out that this seed is actually the spirit of Ysera. And what's cool is that Ysera died in Legion, and we know that somewhere in the Legion time period, the machine of death got broken. Meaning that somewhere in Legion, all the souls, they were just sent to the Maw, but we don't know exactly when this happened. It could be at the start of Legion, with like the opening of the portal at the Tomb of Sargeras, meaning that spirits like Varian and Tyrion and Ysera, they were all meant to go to the Maw, Except for Ysera's death, in the cutscene, we see Elune herself reach down and grab her spirits. This could very well be the reason why Ysera did not end up at the Maw, instead made her way to Ardenweald, but we're not entirely certain if Elune played a part in this, or if it just was the natural cycle of things, meaning that the Machine of Death got broken later on in Legion, perhaps with the death of Argus, perhaps with Sargeras stabbing the planet. We're not exactly sure. I mention this because I would really like to get some more information on Elune. Ysera and Elune and Malorn and Cenarius, they all have this history together, so it would be very nice to find out more about the goddess of the Night Elves, about Elune herself. Time will tell if they're actually going to deep dive into that. Either way, the whole storyline is trying to save the seed of Ysera, give her anima, get her to the right place, enter her visions, and inside these visions, we see the origins of her life. Ysera and the others as proto-dragons. We see her fighting betrayal, which would be Deathwing, one of their fellow aspects, their brothers, fallen to the old god's corruption. And then, which they mention, a future uncertain, with a massive Janissar which is patrolling the area. At least, that's what was going on before the latest patch. When we saw this for the first time on the alpha, I was hoping for this to be a placeholder model, so we could actually see Galagrond in the game. Galagrond, for those unaware, he was the first world-ending threat Ysera and the other aspects faced. Overcoming this threat actually moved the Keepers to turn them into the aspects, but there were those wondering if the Janissar patrolling, if that was a hint at future threats for the world. The Mega recruitment could play its part in that. Janissars could definitely be a threat to the world of Azeroth. But like I said, the model is now changed on the alpha. It has been changed into Nyfendra, a boss to be fought in the Emerald Nightmare. Ysera died before we entered the raid and took care of business, and her spirit, an image of her, it did show up during the Xavius encounter, the end-boss of the Emerald Nightmare raid, to then walk the lake in the dream. So it could simply be relating to that, dying before she could help out her dragonflight with the Emerald Nightmare. Or it could symbolize what's going on with the world right now, Undead Dragon, Shadowlands expansion. Or it could still be Galagrond, only not with a unique model. Who knows at this point? Can't wait to find out. After this whole questline, you actually become Ysera, you see her death, you see that this little spirit is constantly reliving her final moments, stuck in a nightmare, and we need to get her out of there. Unfortunately for the alpha testing, the questline is a bit busted. And hello there, this is me after the recent patch, where the questline has been fixed. All of Ardenweald, they see this vision, her beautiful sacrifice, but the Drust, they still don't care. An attack follows, with our seed wounded. We have to ask the Winter Queen to offer her aid, to spare some anima to save Ysera. After a parade, the Winter Queen finally does show up and decides to grant her wish. Ysera is brought back, now with the necromantic blue eyes. Her fate is tied to Ardenweald. Time will tell what Ysera's role is actually going to be. Again, I really hope that it has something to do with Elune. On the alpha right now, no real dialogue is given, so time will tell. The questline then guides us into the final leveling zone, which is Revendrift. From Maldraxxus, we received a mysterious message, which we have given to the Winter Queen. She lets us know that Ardenweald's anima is barely enough to sustain their groves, let alone contribute to keeping the Banished One held. More must be diverted to keep the Banished One in check. Perhaps Sire Denethrius can help us out, as he is the master of anima extraction. The Banished One, I would say, would be the Jailer, as part of the Revendrift questing that has us uncover that Sire Denethrius, he's actually working with the Jailer, and they're stockpiling anima to help him break out of the Maw. Then there's another mysterious entity mentioned. A couple of mobs, they mention a master that they serve. A couple of hints, like orders from the Ancient One. Sow havoc, reap chaos. He will take his place as the one true god of death. I personally think this relates to the Loa Muzala, as throughout the zone there are minions of Muzala to be found. There's been datamine dialogue about Muzala working together with the Jailer, competing with entities like Bonsamdi, another Loa of death. The dungeon called The Other Side, it revolves around dealing with Muzala. So I think that is the one who they want to get in the position of the one true god of death. Once again, it's guesswork at this point. But all in all, you are up to speed with the short version of the story in Ardenweald. And all in all, Ardenweald is a beautiful zone. The art team is absolutely rocking it. Like each zone so far that we've seen, they have the distinct theme, they have the distinct beauty. Like even an area like Revendreth is absolutely gorgeous. I can't wait to see what they have in mind for the Maw and for Maldraxxus. Questing, however, is still very much in development, or at least I hope so. There was literally one quest line where they said like this is still in development, there are more quests to come. And all in all, the questing experience, like the main quest line is cool, but I'm a big fan of Ysera, so of course it's going to be awesome. But all in all, the questing itself definitely needs a bit of work. But there you go, ladies and gentlemen. There's Ardenweald in a nutshell. Hopefully I wasn't rambling too much. Hopefully you enjoyed. And until next time, see ya!